I want to go back to this this guy Rizvi. He is the member of the Chicago Anti-War Committee that was doing a train-the-trainer exercise at Chicago Teamsters HQ over the weekend in advance of the DNC and other nefarious, hysterical, shrill protests or worse that may be planned by these individuals. This is teaching those in attendance, fully N95'd up, of course,
right,
to say to so they to say in Farsi, "Death to America, death to Israel." So they're on key when they take it to college campuses, to Lakeshore Drive, to your local Starbucks.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian that you can use if you ever encounter those Zionist freaks, whether they be Iranian or whatever, all right? Now, I don't drink margaritas, but we all know what a margarita is. We all know what a bar is. So you're going to say, Marg Bar. Marg Bar. Marg Bar Israel. 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 Thank you.
What does that mean? What does it mean? What am I chanting? I'm an idiot.
Oh, so it has two meanings depending on who's asking. It can mean death to or down with. So
can we get a Marg Bar America?
We can get a Marg Bar America. Yes, we can. Marg Bar America.
Marg Bar America.
Marg Bar America.
Marg Bar America.
Thank you.
It's important for a number of counts. I mean, first and foremost, that you have this, mob mentality with such enthusiasm for anti-Semitism as well as hatred of America. Secondly, that you have people that if you talk to the rank and file, not of those apparatchiks, but of the Teamsters, they would probably, to a man and woman, distance themselves from that training session that took place at their dues-financed headquarters. And so, how do you get rank and file Teamsters and other members of the trades? Forget the public sector unions, teachers, AFSCME, SEIU, they're lost. The trades, which Teamsters is sort of kind of trade, it's a little bit different. They need to be reached on this too, and they need to see what their resources are being put to.
Right.
Because I don't think hatred of America or hatred of Jews is something that most Teamsters are signed up for.
Well, why would they even let that? It's like letting the fox into the hen house. Why would they even do it?
Because of who's in charge of those unions these days.
Okay. Got a lot of text messages saying, what union, what locals was this? Where did it take place?
I assume, I don't know. It was just reported by the Free Press, Barry Weiss's outfit, that it was a Teamsters HQ in Chicago. I don't know if that was like Joint Council 25 headquarters or where exactly, but probably if it was Chicago proper.
Call your union rep and just ask them where was this taking place.
Yeah, well,
and stress
exactly.
if you're upset about it. I mean, text into the show. That's great, but do something about it. Get mad as hell and call somebody. Call your union rep. Call the Teamsters headquarters and just say, this is not what we stand for. I don't want my dues going to this. And what the hell's going on?
I'm sure a BA would be able to get to a bottom of it if a Teamsters BA was properly motivated. For more on this and other matters, law and order, we're pleased to be joined by Professor William Jacobson, clinical professor of law and director of the Securities Law Clinic at Cornell. He's also the founder of LegalInsurrection.com and president of the Legal Insurrection Foundation and the Equal Protection Project, too. Professor Jacobson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be on.
I saw over at your site, LegalInsurrection.com, that you attended and spoke at a Cornell Unity rally. And I wonder if this is a rally where, American flag with the Israeli flag on stage and so forth. And just reading the account of it, seemed to be like rallying, like singing and being positive. Any death to Palestine, death to Palestinians type of chanting going on at that rally?
No, not at all. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. That's the difference between the pro-Israel protesters and the quote-unquote pro-Palestine protesters. Is we were chanting for peace, we were urging reconciliation, we were acknowledging the rights of the Jewish people in the ancestral homeland of the Jews, and we were calling for unity in this country. This was a unity rally, not just for Jews, not just for Israel, but for the United States as well. Whereas when you go to the quote-unquote pro-Palestinian rallies, they're chanting for death. They want violence. They want intifadas. They want to ethnically cleanse Israel from the river to the sea. And I think that the clips you were just playing and what you were talking about is a very good example of what I've been warning about for years, is that the anti-Israel protesters are also the anti-American protesters. There's a reason why they're teaching people to chant the Iranian mullah phrase, death to America, death to Israel. This is a really dangerous movement in this country, and people need to wake up to it.
Just a point of order. We got a text that Teamsters headquarters.
Oh, yes.
It's a local 786 on South Ashland. The president, Eddie Rizzo. So maybe some Teamsters would want to direct their inquiries to the top there.
Right. So they
President Rizzo.
don't have practice sessions again there at that location.
Well, or they can, and you can, I guess, explain your position. But it's always good to put people in the position of having to explain themselves, because then we understand where everybody stands, don't we now? Professor Jacobson, so what do you sense is the temperature on college campuses? Your own, the Ivy League, probably you're closest to, but after the sort of after the October 7th terrorist attack, and then there was the beginnings of the Israeli response, and that generated the pushback from the Students for a Free Palestine and these other campus groups. And now you've got Democrat politicians like Elizabeth Warren saying that Israel is guilty of genocide. So but then you have unity rallies like you had on Cornell. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what you think the status of things are on college campuses, was sort of the incubator of some of this silliness.
Well, certainly on the surface, it's extremely hostile that the movements are anti-Israel. They want the destruction of Israel. So the voices on campus, the loudest voices, are clearly extremely hostile. I don't think that necessarily represents a majority opinion, but it only takes 10% of a campus to be activated, and 10% of a campus to chant these things, and it seems like a lot of people. So I think there is a real problem, but I think the superficial problem may be worse. Now, that superficial problem is a problem. I mean, at Cornell, we've got these students marching through libraries and through classroom areas with bullhorns, disrupting people, and the administration has struggled to deal with it. I think the administration here should deal with it the way a couple of other schools have recently, which is if you're going to violate our rules, you're going to get written up, and if you do it blatantly and you do it after you were asked to stop and you keep doing it, we're going to suspend you. I think that, enforcing the rules equally to all people is the answer to this. And at Cornell, you're not allowed to march through a classroom area with bullhorns because people are entitled to teach and people are entitled to study. So I think, I think that superficially it's extremely bad. I don't know to what extent it reflects the underlying student sentiment.
I wanted to get your reaction to what happened over the weekend in Memphis, Tennessee, where a police officer was murdered. 2 other officers were injured by a suspect that had been released just a month earlier by the local prosecutor, a Soros-funded prosecutor, who eliminated cash bail because it marginalizes minority communities, he said, a story we've heard before. And so this guy, despite having an arsenal, what the left would normally call weapons of war, possessing these weapons illegally, being in a stolen car, was released on his own recognizance last month. Now he opens fire on police and he kills a police officer just last weekend on Friday morning. I remember during the defund the police move, the height of it, you had some black residents of Minneapolis sue, saying basically again, an equal protection claim, saying they were not, but local, but sort of a quasi equal protection claim, but at the local level, that there's this guarantee in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Charter that equal police resources for every neighborhood, and these black residents of a majority black neighborhood saying we're not getting equal police resources and we want them because we want to be protected from the criminal element, and they won. And I wonder if there is additional plays on that order or plays of a similar nature for residents to make who are being terrorized by the criminal element who is being facilitated by, shockingly but true, their local justice system.
Yeah, well, I think that's a problem. The post George Floyd has cost defund the police movement, Black Lives Matter movement has cost hundreds of people their lives, and most of those hundreds of people are in the black communities and policemen. And so it really, they have unleashed a reign of terror on our society, but they call it, prison reform, or they call it justice reform. But everybody knew at the time that's not what it was. And so we have these terrible situations. And I think people need to elect better prosecutors and need to change the laws. There's no reason why these people should be released without bail, without any conditions, should be allowed to roam around society free when they've been charged with these serious offenses.
But they keep doing it over and I mean, they know it's not working. They know people are dying because of the consequences of their actions. Do you think they're just not reversing it because they don't want to admit that they made a mistake?
I think the people behind that movement are so ideologically addicted to tearing down our system that they are not going to give up any part of their effort. So I think it's purely ideological. I don't think they care. I think they view our entire system as irredeemably corrupt and irredeemably racist, and anything they can do to puncture that system and try to tear us down, they'll do. I mean, I've seen these people for a long time, and I've been on your show many times talking about them. They are really hardcore ideologues. These are the equivalent. They may not profess communist ideology, but whatever their ideology is, they are true believers. They really hate our system, and they don't care. I really think these activists do not care that police are getting shot by people released.
No, I mean, we had the clip this morning, Cornell West, Ivy League professor. He announced his VP candidate, Melina Abdullah, former head of Pan-African Studies at California State University. And she is the co-founder of BLM, Black Lives Matter LA. And her position is that, historically, police were slave catchers, and they continue to be slave catchers into the 21st century. So it's pretty clear ideological stance that she's taking, and the implications of said stance, which is to defund police, which is where she is. So, I mean, it's not like they're couching their views. And so my question is, particularly with like the concept of your equal protection project, is there areas of the law where people should look for the possibility of novel causes of action to demand police protection or criminal justice, the upholding of criminal statutes where they're being willfully ignored by prosecutors and judges, for example?
I don't think there's a civil lawsuit answer to it.
Okay.
Prosecutors have broad discretion, and judges who release these people have basically absolute immunity for the actions they take as judges. So the answer here is political. People need to stop electing what in many cases are these Soros-backed prosecutors. That's the answer. And if your local Democratic Party is putting these people in place and running these people for office, then maybe you need to vote against them. Because let's face it, this is a Democrat Party problem. This is not a Republican Party problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to get clarity. Just to drive the point home, it's a political problem that requires a political solution at the ballot box. Professor William Jacobson, clinical professor of law, director of the Securities Law Clinic at Cornell, founder of LegalInsurrection.com, and president of the Legal Insurrection Foundation. Professor Jacobson, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Did the Protestant Reformation suffer a premature death? Absolutely, argues the riveting book, Reviving the Reformation by Dr. Daniel Lang. The book of Acts chapter 21 verse 20 reports that myriads or tens of thousands of Jewish believers dwelled in Jerusalem, and they were all zealous for the Torah. Their leaders were guiding the early Messianic faith. 40 years after the death of Jesus, however, the Jews revolted against Rome. This rebellion caused a Roman hammer to crush Israel, destroying the temple and Jerusalem. Following this devastation,